Elders, um, as an elder, what is something that you've learned as your position as elder that you wish your parents taught you? Whoever would like to jump in first, please go ahead.
Well, I'll preface this answer with being raised by a group of people that really didn't have a high education level. Um, Street smarts, yeah. Wisdom, yes. But um, just general overall school education was low. Uh, Independence, um, responsibility, and what I think is most important is a sense of community. Um, not being afraid to use your resources, use the resources around you, and become a better individual, a better human. I think that if I would have had those traits earlier in life, my life would have been a lot better. But I wouldn't be me. So I appreciate and respect what I have uh, gained from my upbringing, my what I've learned from my
Miss
elders.
Jennifer?
How to communicate with your children properly, not just and listen when they're talking, not just my way. I'm the parent and you do what I say.
That's
I love
interesting.
that. Very key.
Mm.
Very key.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And parents taught their kids, and you have to listen to the children at times and see what comes from their heart.
Yeah, that's something I'm still learning is to take time with my son and to listen.
Your sound went out.
Better?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, yeah. So that's something that I'm learning as I'm communicating with my son is that he has his own thoughts on things and they're valid. Just because he's a child doesn't make him any less of a human being. He has 11 years of experience on this planet and yeah, his thoughts are valid.
But
You
I don't
know,
think
it's
so.
oh, go ahead,
I
mom.
see
Go ahead.
perspective is children is not going to communicate with you and tell them what's going on the outside if you're not communicating with them. Just always, okay, be quiet, you're a child.
That's very, very valid. That's so valid. Like that's so true. And I never thought about it like that. But that's a whole nother aspect that they're not even gonna trust to come to you. You know what I'm saying? When you want them to, when you keep pushing them away, when they do want to. That's so true. But what I wanted to say was, it's funny to me that you hear elders say that, but nowadays, like my friends who are like in their late 30s, early 40s, even mid 40s, they haven't grasped that concept yet. They have that I'm the parent, say, listen to what I say, like, um, be seen and not heard or whatever. Like they still have that mentality. So it's funny that, like, as an elder, you would already see like that's maybe not the right way.
Yeah, that's pretty uncommon. I can't tell you how many times I've heard do as I say, not as I do, stay in the child's place. Uh, I've
From an
That's the
elder.
way
definitely
it's right. And I don't think
caught a
that's right.
few licks for that. But Miss Silma, did you want to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say that from my perspective, my upbringing, I was raised by my grandparents from a very young age. Um, and I was taught, that you always listen to your elders and do what they say. That it was a very strict upbringing that I had. Basically, I don't know whether you know about the people from the Caribbean immigrating to England in the 50s and 60s. So my parents left me there at the age of 8. My dad at the age of 7, and then my mom at the age of 8 left me and my siblings. So we were raised by my grandmother, who was very, very strict, but very kind and very caring. And I have tried to replicate that in terms of my parenting my children. And also because joining my parents later at the age of 16 in England was very difficult for me. And because it was a different parenting experience then that I, experienced. So, but I also learned from them that because they were very resilient people, because of what they went through, immigrating to the UK. So I have tried to show my children how to be resilient, and when hard times, you talk about it. And yes, and that's what I've tried to instill in them, that they can do whatever they want to do, they put their mind to it. Because the elders that, in the family have done that, they've worked very hard, and they've, set examples. So I've tried to do that for my kids.
Is
And I hope that they,
Mom, is there something, Mom, that you learned on your own though that is your advice that you didn't get from great granny and granddad or from nanny and granddad? Something that you've learned?
It's a very similar thing because I've followed that path, if you see what I mean. I've decided that I knew in my mind that I could do well. And I also taught my children, I hope you believe that as well, that, you try and do your best, yeah, in life. And yes, there are going to be hard times, but you talk about it. And I hope that you know that I have been there to listen and encourage you to do your best. Does that make sense?
So
yeah.
So basically like communication in you communication or being able to communicate with them or whatever, you're able to show and instill and be that shoulder so that they are able to be resilient and able to bounce back and able to keep pushing 100%.
And by example as well,
Mm-hmm.
showing that I have done that, and they can also do that. And I'll be there to support them.
And yeah, I think that
Yeah.
Sister Caroline definitely emulates that with her children as far as being like somebody that motivates and supports them and listens from what I hear when they're around. But what I wanted to say was it shows the importance of communication because both you and my basically said that's something that you learned on your own through experience is how to or the importance of communicating with young. So that goes to show the importance of communication in itself.
Yeah.
And that was what you said in the first podcast, wasn't it, Synthonia?
Mm-hmm.
When we without the elders, that communication is the thing that you see as most important. So it's interesting that our elders see that as well. I think that reinforces your point.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Miss Jean?
Okay. All right. Yeah, I totally agree with communication being a key because then it gives them the opportunity of letting them know that they have a voice and they can express themselves without there being any type of judgment. I also, as a parent, now, as a, what is it, parent of adult children, I reassure them that my love for them is genuine. Um, I give them a platform to share their thoughts and their ideas. And over the years, I have um, introduced them to personal development, which is something that I know I never got because that was not a tool or it just wasn't something that was available to my parents at that time. But now I take it upon myself if there is something that I can have them do, to enhance, who they are as individuals. I still encourage it, for them to take advantage of all these different opportunities.
I agree with that as well because I think that I have always listened to them and try and understand what they want to do in terms of their life, in terms of a career, and encourage them to, do their best. And I think that, I didn't have that, because there weren't that many opportunities available as such. But today, I think there are lots of opportunities and
Mm.
children can choose their path. With some encouragement, you can help them to achieve what they would like to achieve and help them with their interests, things that they're interested in learning and pursuing. Talk to them and encourage them in that as well.
I can attest to what's being said because although I do have a conventional job, my mother supports me in being creative and has introduced me, like she said, to transformative education through a program called Landmark Education, where we learn tools in how to navigate life and how to communicate effectively, which is a huge part of life. And I want to ask my mother to expound about her parents and where they're from and just give that background as to why those tools weren't available.
Okay. So my parents, they're both from Jamaica. My dad, St. Mary, and my mom, St. Elizabeth. One of the things that I can say as a highlight for my parents was that they were go-getters. They met when they both at a young age. I think they were in their 30s, yeah, in their 30s. Migrated to, London for better opportunity, and at that time, they met and they got married and so on and so on. So one of the things that does impress me about them, though, is that they were go-getters. They knew that they wanted, especially when they had children, they started a family, that they wanted something better than what they had, So for a few years, we lived in England. Then they purchased land in Jamaica. They migrated back. They went back to Jamaica, built their home, and then they saw, what, Jamaica really wasn't working. This was in the mid 60s. They went back to, because they went to London in the 50s. Then in the 60s, they went back to Jamaica. And then by the mid 60s, they started on a plan that, we got to get to the US because that's the land of opportunity. So their focus has always been about, taking advantage of opportunity so that they can make lives better for themselves and for their children. And that's one thing that I can say that I have strived on, especially, when it came to that point where I had to raise my children by myself. One of the things that stuck out to me is that they did not ask to be here. And since I have them, I have to do the best that I can to my ability to provide them with all that to make sure that I take care of all of their immediate needs. So when I ventured out on my own, where as far as not being living with my parents on my, anymore, and having my children, it took me just a few years to get back into even saying the job market. And I realized that it just wasn't working for me, you know, um, having a landlord because I wasn't brought up that way. So when I did get back into the job market, we're talking about 1996. 1996, yeah, because my youngest, yeah, no, 1993. My daughter was, my youngest was, like a year and a half, something like that. When I got back into the job market, and then within 3 years later, I was like, anything that I have to do to make sure that I have something that I can say is my own for my children, I'm gonna do it. And I did. And it just shows you that no matter what kind of challenges you may be faced with, as long as you set goals, you're able to carry out whatever it is that you need to do. And so I've always said that, my children are my priority, and that I can say, I can give credit to my parents because they did see, raising their children, and, providing them with the best, as a priority.
Thank you very much for your wisdom. That was beautiful. And definitely something that I think a lot of people, at least where I'm from the South, I'm from Virginia. So unfortunately, there was a lot of that same energy of you can only do so much. So to hear you expound upon that, especially in the early 90s, being able to do that is a beautiful thing. So thank you for being that inspiration and for your beautiful child, because he's amazing. We love IMI.
We do. We do. And I just want to say that I love, my heart's just swelled listening to you, because obviously I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about my mom. And I just think that the power of the Black woman and what she can bear, put on her shoulders, and 7 children, is it that you have? 7? And mom's got her 4, and then her grandchildren, and she's still helping out Ome today with going to uni. She just bought her a wad of money and said, "Yeah, have this. Buy the rest of the stuff that you need." But I just salute. If only I can do half of what you guys do, then I'm winning. But I don't know how you do it all, man. I really don't. I don't know how you do it.
I just want to say that. Go ahead.
Karen, I went to university at the age of, in my late 30s, because I'd already had the 4 of you, but I always felt that I could do more, right? And I went to university while I was still looking after you and your siblings, and got a degree, graduated, went on to do social work, became a social worker, and did that for 20 odd years before I finally retired. I watched because I had my children very young, so therefore my other siblings had gone off to university at a much younger age. And I always thought, when I was raising my children, I could do that too. I know I can do that. And I never gave up. So at the age of 38, I think it was, I applied and went to university. And I was successful. I was able to, so I wanted to prove to my children that they can also do, similar.
See, and like, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. I didn't.
Very, very important. We always knew that. Barbados was one of these islands in the Caribbean that, education was foremost. And it was free. After independence, it became free, higher education. So people took advantage of that, and my family did, right? And they all wanted to do well. And the majority of them have done well, because the island was able to afford that and helped. And when I arrived in England, people did not even ask about your education in the Caribbean. They assumed that you weren't educated to a certain standard, and it did set us back, quite a bit. So I was out to prove that I could do it. And I said the same thing to my children. I know they can, put their mind to it, and with the encouragement and the help from myself and other people within the family, they would do whatever they want and achieve what they want to achieve. Without me telling them what to do in terms of a career, they made their own choices and I supported them all the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that, Caroline always says, like, in the last job that she has, like, the entitled kids act a certain way, and the people who came from a struggle, like, usually a certain type of way, right? So I'm just saying that in relation, right? Like, it, from my understanding, my experience, what I hear, I see like a lot of people who come from the struggle. Like there's two types. There's two types of parents who go on the struggle. There's a type that like give up and you know what I'm saying, and it's just all bad. You know what I'm saying? And then there's a type like you guys, right? That are resilient, that say like I'm gonna do this and push forward. I have something to prove not only to myself, but to I have kids, they're looking. You can see the evidence of that. And I feel like it's kind of in relation to what you're saying. Like, usually the kids that come from such a hard background, they're so like away, you know? When you like a good parent and you're in the struggle, there's a high chance like there's always exceptions to the rules and there's always, but a lot of times the kid comes out. Like look at Ima, look at Caroline. I don't even your dad's not even here, but look at Adrian. Like you can tell, and not nobody came from a silver spoon and background of money or a decent lump sum or something. Everybody has struggled, had to learn harsh gems their own through their own experiences, and you can tell the evidences of that. So I don't know if it's always a bad thing when we're struggling, to be honest with you.
You as well. You as well. We can't leave you out of it. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
yeah, but I was talking, so
yeah. You're an exceptional individual, and you've told us all, and you've shared multiple times how difficult, abusive a childhood you had, and regardless of that, and I think it's absolutely beautiful, heartwarming, gives you faith in the world and people that you've got Jennifer, and that Jennifer has made that decision to commit herself to you. You've from day one spoke about Jennifer and how she's your ma, and I think you've podcasted at her house one time, at least once. You were like, Ma! And that's it's a special thing. I was gonna say in a way it's even more special because you don't have to do that, Jennifer. You know what I mean? It's a decision that you've made, but Synthonia is a very special individual, so we can see why you made that decision.
Thanks.
You treat me like a daughter too. So
that's really lovely to hear too, because I, as a social worker, I did adoption work, and I was responsible for helping to match children with families. And it's lovely to hear that, because I've had adopters that I'm still in touch with, and they contact me and update me on the children that, I was involved in placing them and giving them a home, a home that they're happy in, and they're loved and cared for. And I, I love to talk to them and to hear about the children's achievements, and they're all very positive, the majority of time. So that's very sweet to hear their story.
Anybody else have anything?
I want to say that one of the things that I asked my mom was like, what is it that's important for you to get to wherever it is that you want to get to? And she would say persistence is the key. And just, no matter what setbacks that you may face, just persist and be consistent in whatever it is that you do. And my parents, especially, from the Caribbean, education was stressed, so even when I had the opportunity when I graduated from high school where I could have been working, it was like, no, you're not working, you're going to college. You're going to go get that degree. And that's so yeah. I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, I think
Say that.
further education was not an option in our family, to be honest. It was like we all knew that that was the path we had to go down, without even my parents saying it. It was almost something that we knew and accepted, and we wanted to do it as well. It was always the encouragement was always there, and yeah, I tried. I I think I did that well with my children. They knew that they would eventually go to university. They weren't forced into it. They accepted that, and that's what they wanted to do. So I've never had to, you know, all I did was encourage them. Once they made that decision, if it wasn't their decision to go to university, we would talk about it also, and help them, achieve what they wanted to achieve. So yeah, I think children do need to learn how to be creative as well and know what they would like to achieve. And if they don't, then you encourage them to try and find out, and get some help with that as well. Where that help is available. Yeah. So I
I
think
was just gonna. Sorry, go ahead, Mom.
carry on, carry on.
No, I was just going to say that from book club to Emmanuel's mom, Jean, that he stood out to me from the first meeting because he had a pen and paper and it was very clear that he'd read the book. So the reflection of what you've just said, we've been able to see in your son, because Emmanuel is a different level when it comes to his approach to kind of intellectualism and studying things, and you see that deeper level that is not every day, and yeah, Mom, absolutely. I will say though that Auntie Lorna did beach me to go to uni, Mom. I wasn't just like, yeah, I'm off. Lorna sat me down and told me I'd be a fool. You'd be a fool not to go, because that's the kind of eldership leadership that we had. Mom looks all soft and that, but there was a boy at my school that said, I was scared of your mom, and I was scared of Taft's mom. That's my Auntie Lorna. When they'd come down to school, mom is not as meek and mild as she looks. When she's ready, hardcore. So yeah, I got Lorna. Lorna told me you'd be an idiot not to go. Do you want to start at the bottom and try and work your way up, or do you want to get a degree and go in at the top? I was like, fair enough. I'll get a degree.
Fair enough.
But that family, connection is important, isn't it? Because sometimes children would listen to somebody else rather than their parent, and somebody in the family to take on that role is also good, and we've had that in our family. We've had a lot of people to look up to, and people that will give us encouragement. I've had it. My children have had it. Apart from myself, they've had other people within the family that were also available to help and encourage them, which is a good thing. And I never stood for any nonsense when it comes to my children in school and how they're treated, because they're there to learn and they need to have the same opportunity as any other child. So I would go to every meeting and listen to what the teachers have to say and give my opinion. I always tell a story of my son. We went to a meeting at the school about what exams he was going to take going forward. and they try to encourage him to go at the lowest level. And the teacher actually said to me, "You don't have to worry about Roger. He's got a lovely smile." And I was like, seriously? A smile is going to get him, a job later on in life? We're here to talk about his education, and you're telling me that because he has a lovely smile, that will get him through life, you know? And I was very upset by that. And obviously I've had to say to this teacher, you know, but I'm not going to tell you what I said, but yeah.
That's another thing that's missing. That's another differentiation between like the way elders used to parent. They were so involved, like so present, like there. Now, like do they even still have parent teacher conference? I don't know. Do they? Probably
Yeah,
they do, right?
yeah, they
Yeah.
do.
Oh, okay. But, you know what I'm saying? But
Yes,
I'm
indeed.
not. Oh, okay. So do parents go as like how they used to? Do they talk like how you spoke and stuck up for the kids? Like a teacher, like the schools don't care. So if a parent is not coming, they're not attentive, they're not speaking up for the kid, or they're not showing, or then the teacher's not gonna care. If you could tell if the parent is not present,
It's not gonna care either.
huh?
The child is not going to care either if you're not an active parent in the child's life.
100%.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that about parent involvement. So, when my children were like, so they're in high school, they're in junior high school, public school, you bet you I was at the meeting. And if it, and also sometimes it meant that, okay, I live in Staten Island now, but when I grew up and was raised in Brooklyn, and then we also were lived in Queens, wherever it was, whatever school that they were into, I was going there. I wasn't making any excuses because my children education came first. And I developed a relationship with the dean, the principal. So I remember one of my sons, one of the schools that one of my sons attended, the dean had gotten a promotion to become a principal. So he was now going to no longer be working at the Staten Island school and he was going to be working in the Brooklyn school. So I said to him that, oh, my son, he's graduating and he's going to be going to high school. And he opted to apply to go to the school in Brooklyn. He said to me, perfect, Miss Brown. You don't have to worry about getting home because after the meeting, I can drive you home. So I made myself visible so that they would know, okay, this is Emmanuel's mom, this is Sela's mom, this is Shakira's mom, this is Wadada's mom, this is Jamal's mom, this is Irisha's mom, this is Joffrey's mom. You
Oh
hear
yeah.
me? Okay, when I got inside that building, they knew who I was. And that made a big difference. I've gone to PTA meetings where there were opportunities and I was like, oh yeah, my son, he's in that culinary program. And my daughter, and I spoke to the teacher that was the head of the culinary program. And I was like, oh, my daughter, she's Shakira, she's getting ready to come to that school and she's interested in culinary. Yes, I am going to look out for your daughter. That's knowing that she is going to be in my class. So it makes a big difference. And I don't really no, I mean, yeah, yeah, of course, there's still PTA meetings that take place now, but I believe parents make excuses. Oh, I got to be at work. I got to be doing this, or I don't have the time. I would take off the days if there was something that was going on during the school day. I would take off and make sure I was going to the school, going to going on a trip with them, or whatever it was. There was no excuse. And don't and there had been a time where I was at work and I was called because, oh, your son was not in class and you have to go to the detention center and go get him. I was livid. However, I had to do what I had to do. And after that one time and that meeting, that never happened again.
Yes. Go
So
on, mommy.
and I can say that that's something that my parents they didn't have any time for because it was a different mindset, it was a different time for them. So it's like, okay, me, I needed to go to school to do what I needed to do, and I just needed to come back and bring the grades, and they needed to see the report card and that I passed everything. And if I didn't pass, then I was there was going to be a consequence on my part. That mean that okay, summer's coming. You're not going outside. You're gonna be inside for the entire summer. That's how my parents were. That's how especially my mom, because she was more the, authority figure more than my dad was. So if I wasn't doing right by my books, you know, I would suffer the consequences and the time off during the summer breaks. And so but so I am I based on my experiences growing up, I've opted not to be that strict with my children, giving them flexibility. Okay. But at the same time, though, their weekends would be filled with so many different things to do. There was no time for them to be sitting in front of the TV watching a cartoon. What's that going to be do for them? So they would go fencing, they would be taught. They were, some of them, not all of them, were taught by the first African American Olympic winner. You hear me? Peter Westbrook. And it's so funny because I was doing some decluttering this morning and I came across the letter that Peter Westbrook had sent saying that, that my children were selected to, participate in fencing. Didn't even cost anything. All I had to do was drive them to get there. And parents weren't doing that. Then there was opportunities for them to travel internationally. I took advantage of it. They were still in high school. And I took advantage of it because especially our community, um, there's a lot that we don't take advantage of and a lot that we don't do because we don't have that exposure. But like if I had the tendency I had a tendency of always being glued to the radio. So, wow, this some seems like something that I need to follow up with and have my children involved in. And then I also had, I would say, a supportive community of other moms that also had, you know, six children as well as myself. And so I have one sister friend. To this day, she has what is her home is known as the village house. Okay. And you go there and we get together. Okay. Anytime we would have birthday celebrations, we wouldn't be renting no space to celebrate their birthday. We would go to Prospect Park or wherever.
To Auntie Naima's house.
And so it also was a way of us pooling our monies to do different things to enhance
That's it.
their lives.
Mhm.
And that's something that I didn't get from my parents. Yeah, there was a susu, the partner, but as far as like pooling your monies to do certain things, The financial education, financial literacy, I did not get it from my parents, probably because maybe they didn't, that wasn't their focus. Even though they became homeowners, that they weren't 100%, focused in that area. And that's something that I try to stress to my children.